Hi, Kevin, Property Soldier here. So I am multitasking as ever, and so this is a Facebook Live into several different places, but also recording this as a podcast episode to go out on my service accommodation property podcast. And so this episode, if you like, is my service accommodation predictions for 2021. What do I see happening in the world of service accommodation for 2021? And I've got 8 points to cover. Okay, so my 8 predictions for 2021 when it comes to serviced accommodation. Or, also remember, for those of you watching live, you can comment. And so Alan said, good evening. Hi, Alan. So you can comment and you can ask questions as we are going through this Facebook Live as well. Anyone watching the replay of this, then by all means, ask away, ask any other questions in the comments. And for everyone else, you will be listening to this as a podcast episode. So first point then, I'm going to come to, and that is the good old contractor or the corporate bookings. Now then, what we have seen throughout the summer is quite a big behavioural shift when it comes to corporates and contractors. And we have acquired an awful lot more. So Happy New Year. So yeah, absolutely, Faisal, should have said that earlier on. Happy New Year to you all. We've noticed an awful lot more contractor bookings over the course of 2020, more so leaning more towards the contractor bookings rather than the normal leisure type bookings that an awful lot of SA operators have become used to. And so absolutely, my prediction for 2021 is that is going to continue, but even more so the contractor bookings, because it's inevitable that there is now a behavioural shift, because an awful lot of the contractors, they had never stayed in SA before, but they were forced to. Quite often the hotels were shut, and so they were forced to, with the key workers, etc. And the feedback that we were getting from them is that they would definitely look to stay in SA first in future, because what's not to like? You get your own lounge, your own kitchen, and the run of the whole place for yourself. And so absolutely, there will be more customers for SA, because there are now more people that have experienced the benefits of SA over a hotel. So that's really cool. So we're going to see that coming back. And don't forget, we're still getting, even during lockdowns, we're still getting lots of corporate bookings. Now, traditionally, January, February are quite quiet. And so, yes, quieter than a normal scenario, but we are still ticking over and we're still making a profit. And the benefits of going after the corporates as well, and getting corporate bookings, is they stay longer. So you've got a lot less voids to worry about. So I predict that the corporate market is going to come back even stronger for 2021. Now, what I do know is happening and will be happening is that you're not going to be able to cram as many corporates or trades into the same property, because they are enjoying the social distancing aspect themselves more now. And so quite a lot of the corporates are wanting their own bedrooms, okay, as you would imagine. And so you're going to get less capacity in your SAs with corporates, okay, and in fact with leisure as well, but less capacity. So remember, you might have a property that sleeps 6, it's got 3 bedrooms, let's say, but you're more likely moving forward to be getting 1 person per bedroom, okay, so less capacity. So remember the difference between occupancy and capacity. Now, what I see happening there, so a lot of people were thinking, well, that's obviously going to have a knock-on effect and you're going to earn less money. Well, the other scenario to consider is that there's going to therefore be less SAs available. isn't there? If those 6 people that would ordinarily all pile into one property are going to be spreading themselves out over 2 properties, especially when the company is paying the accommodation costs. So what that's going to do is going to drive up demand for SA, and when there's more demand for something, then the price of that thing goes up, doesn't it? So, you know, with every negative, there's, you know, with reactions equal opposite reaction. And so that is how I see it panning out in terms of the extra or the less capacity, increasing the floor rate or the night rate, if you like, or the per person per night rate, whichever way you want to think about it. So yeah, some positives, some negatives to consider there. Okay, so let's move over into leisure. Now, leisure stays, again, they're providing really good social distancing. And so, yes, you're going to perhaps get less capacity, but there's exactly the same scenario. It's going to drive up demand. And we again have seen a behavioral shift in terms of our leisure stays. So the staycation boom, it really did boom in the summer, okay? You know, something like a 400% increase in staycation type bookings. And so what's going to happen for 2021, in my opinion, is they are going to come back even bigger in 2021, because again, there are lots more customers who previously had not done a staycation. They had not stayed in serviced accommodation before. They had always traveled abroad to go on their holidays. So that's going to help the situation. And just bear with me a second. I'm just going to plug my Mac in. Okay, and so absolutely that is going to fuel the leisure guests, the boom in staycations and people that hadn't previously done a staycation in SA. So they're going to also be our customers for 2021. And if you think about it, a lot of people also have not spent much time with friends and family. So you don't go abroad usually to spend time with friends and family, do you? So guess what? That is going to be a big one. People wanting to stay in serviced accommodation. Remember, it's still, even that 3-bed property, that's still competing with 3 hotel rooms. So it still can work out an awful lot cheaper than staying in a hotel. And also families are less likely to be worried about the social distancing aspect. So you're going to get better capacity. Okay, you're going to get better occupancy with your leisure bookings. So again, you've got staycation bookings, and you've also got people wanting to visit friends and family. So that again is going to increase the demand for serviced accommodation. So leisure stays, covered that. Now, point number 3 then. Summer is definitely going to start earlier this year. What do I mean by that? Well, all experienced SA operators know that you make the most money in the summer. Why? Because you've got demand for corporates, because, you know, corporates, if you are in a decent enough sized town or city, then you will get corporate bookings all year round, because people need to work all year round. Makes sense. But also the leisure guests come into the picture as well. So they are literally competing with the corporates for bookings, and then therefore the night rates go up. When there's more demand for something, the price of that thing goes up. So what do I mean by summer starting early? Well, guess what? As soon as the vaccine is rolled out, in, you know, enough people have had the vaccine. I don't want to mention the C word. You've all had enough of that in 2021. But again, the brakes are going to be off. The floodgates are going to open, and people are going to say, right, let's go now. And so lots of restrictions. People, you know, areas will be coming out of their tier restrictions, etc., etc. So people are going to be, you know, all that pent up frustration and demand to be wanting to get out and go away and do something. And so again, that's going to make the season shift. It's not going to be a normal 2020. Well, it's not going to be a normal year. We haven't had a 2021 before, have we? It's not going to be a normal year. And so my prediction is that summer is going to come early, and you're going to have an awful lot more demand earlier this year than in normal years because of that. Now, the other thing to consider, my fourth point, is the travel restrictions that may be imposed depending on whether or not people have had a vaccine or not. Now, as you know, you'd have to have been living under a rock not to know that there's lots of people that are anti having a vaccine. At-risk people are more vulnerable to the vaccine than young healthy people, etc. And so there will be people that don't want to take the vaccine, or they will take it as a last resort, etc. And yes, there could be travel restrictions. There could be entry restrictions for certain countries, certain destinations. There might be travel restrictions on airlines, for instance, if people can't prove that they've had a vaccine. So I'm just putting it out there. That might well make people think, okay, fine, I will have my vacation in the UK this year. So again, it's just something to throw out there. The traveling abroad vaccine conditions might also fuel the SA market in the UK. Okay, so let's talk about a few things here. So going on to point number 5, a lot of people always ask me, do you think that licensing with SA will come in? Licensing for SA will come in? Because as we saw with HMOs, licensing came in for HMOs. In order to operate a license of five or more people, you needed a license. An HMO with 5 or more people, you need a license. So would that come in? I'm not talking about how many people are in an SA, but just running an SA, would you need a license for that? I don't think so. We see things coming, us property investors, quite a long way off. These things move pretty slowly, and it would have been announced, let's face it, in 2020 that it was coming in 2021. I think people have been otherwise distracted, haven't they? So no, I don't think that we are going to need a license in order to do SA in 2021. But you know what? Getting a license, when it does come in eventually, it's not going to be a problem as long as you have future-proofed yourself and you are adhering to the normal health and safety rules and regulations around property. So again, I always, when I'm teaching people and on my courses, etc., I get people to go over and above in terms of adhering to things that aren't actually mandatory in SA at the moment, but they are in, say, buy-to-lets, in terms of, doing gas safety inspections, and now it's necessary to get electrical safety installation checks and things like that. So as long as you're doing those things and you've got proof of that stuff, when licensing comes in, you're going to tick all those boxes. But I do not think that you're going to need a license, or licensing is going to come in 2021, because my experience is these things move a lot slower than that. And so we all saw how long it took for Section 24 to come in. Well, those of us that were busy property investors going back 2014, when we first started hearing about it, and it didn't come in until a couple of years ago. So absolutely, these things move pretty slowly, and licensing for HMOs, we saw that coming a long way off. These things move pretty slowly. Planning, again, I do not see planning coming in, or the requirement for having a specific planning permission for SA. So the most appropriate use class for whole house SA or whole apartment SA at the moment is the C3 use class, and I don't see that altering. So the way to think about it is a holiday let is a C3 property. 99 times out of 100, it's a C3 property, and that's ultimately how you are operating service accommodation for a short-term rental. Okay, it's like a holiday let. So as HMRC is concerned, that's pretty much what everybody is doing, is furnish holiday let. And so the most appropriate use class for that is C3. There isn't a specific one. If something is really out of the ordinary, then you might be asked to do or to apply for sui generis. But for most of us doing SA, C3 is the most appropriate use class. Do I think that's going to change in 2021? No, I don't. Again, we see these things coming much further off, and so not enough noise about it for that to happen. Just pure speculation is all I've seen. Now, don't forget, so point number 7 is that in March, the additional stamp for purchasing investment properties is going to come back into play. So that might fuel the market. So, January, February, it might well be fueling the market so that people can get in before that additional stamp comes back in. And so again, just be aware of that. So what it might do is create a slight dip in house prices or sold prices after March. Okay, so again, we always see the market going up and down, don't we? And that might be something that causes that type of situation, so artificially causes that type of situation. And then the other thing that I just want to throw out there before I see if anyone's got any questions for me before I wrap this up is I've noticed, and again, I don't think it's going to come in 2021, but it's something to throw out there, is mortgage interest rate relief. So as most of you know, or a lot of you will know, Section 24 removed the ability to offset your mortgage interest against your rent for buy-to-lets and HMOs, okay, if they were owned in your own name. And the vast majority of properties, investment properties, are owned in our own name, or property investors out there, vast majority of them are owned in people's own name because, for as long as I can remember, I've been investing in property for 29 years now. That was always the advice. It's only in recent years that people are being advised to buy property in a limited company. The reason being is that limited companies can still, properties owned by a limited company or owned in a limited company can still offset, the limited company can still offset the mortgage interest against the rent. So that's why. Now, that does reduce profit for buy-to-lets and HMOs because you've got the extra costs of running a limited company and getting money out of the limited company, you pay dividend tax and things like that. So not as good as it was, but still better than obviously, being able to offset your mortgage interest. Now then, what I have heard on the jungle drums, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's coming in imminently, is the possibility of the government removing the mortgage interest rate relief for investment properties in a limited company. Now, let's face it, there is likely to be austerity measures, and who are quite easy people to hit? Landlords, property investors. Let's face it, that's what happened with Section 24. So would they come after that and remove that tax benefit? So if it does happen, again, I just want to highlight the fact that a trained property investor can spot, and people that are, educate themselves and watch things like this and listen to things like this, you can actually get little tips of wisdom and networking with active property investors who keep their ear to the ground. So guess what you could do if that happened to you is you could switch the property over to serviced accommodation, because serviced accommodation is trading. It is not classed as investment property. It's classed as a trading business. So even further away, okay, from the worry of it losing its mortgage interest relief. So you could, if you've got property in a limited company and it's buy-to-let or HMO, and the government remove the mortgage interest rate relief from that, you could switch it over into SA in order to still be able to offset your mortgage interest. So again, that's for you property owners out there. That will give you another avenue. And let's face it, if they did something and remove the mortgage interest relief for SA, they could. Again, that's going to be even further down the lines. Then guess what? We'll pivot again, won't we? We always find a way. It's not going to be a game changer. Again, I've been investing in property 29 years now. There's been lots of pivoting going on during that time. Now, for those of you that are property owners, that's something that, again, you've got an out, you've got an avenue to go down. For those of you that are not property owners, or you're looking to do rent to SA or SA management, again, that would be an opportunity for you, because there'll be landlords out there that own property in a limited company. They don't manage the properties. They don't want to manage the properties, or even if they did, they're managing buy to let and HMO. They wouldn't have the foggiest how to manage SA. And so again, you could be the outlet for them, and you can be offering your services for running the properties as serviced accommodation. And so again, they've managed to avoid Section 24. So they're constantly trying to dodge Section 24 tax. Okay, so that was my final point, my point 8, just something for you to consider. Don't worry if mortgage interest rate relief is removed from limited companies, because again, good old SA can come and help. So let me have a look to see if I've got any questions. So Sharon's made a point. We pivot like ballerinas in pink glittery tutus. Absolutely. And I'm not adverse to a glittery tutu, Sharon. Absolutely. You know, I was in the army for 24 years. It was sort of almost mandatory to take women's clothing on exercise with us, just in case. So any other questions? I'm just checking in the community before I jump onto elsewhere questions. So get your questions in if you've got any. Okay, so another point here from Sharon. Most austerity measures, best go on more holidays to claim more mileage. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Cool. So any other questions, guys? Let me just check on this platform here. Lots of people saying good evening, and Jogita's saying hi from Liverpool. If you've got any questions, then please type those in. Yes, Sharon saying I do look good in pink. Well, thank you very much, Sharon. I appreciate that. I don't understand that, because you might see the pink tutu. Okay, so no one wants to see that on a Saturday night. Okay, guys, so hopefully everyone found that useful. My predictions for 2021, I would suggest that we stay calm and carry on. And there are more positives I see than negatives, definitely for people like yourselves who keep your ears to the ground, and you get a little advance warning of where to maybe pivot in what directions in order to stop the nasty taxman getting your hands on your money, or whatever that might be. Oh, I missed your question, Sharon. What was the question? Cut and paste it again. How do I do SA by doing minimal work? Was that your question, Sharon? Now then, we have actually been doing this ourselves. We practice what we preach. Myself and Caroline, we have been outsourcing the management of our SAs. We've been doing joint ventures with different people, and stepping back, I mean, Caroline was doing most of the work, my other half, let's face it, in terms of managing the team, but we've actually been outsourcing management of our SAs. So again, that is an easy way to be, obviously leveraging. You can scale more when you have got less operational work to do. You can scale and build the portfolio greater. Okay, especially if you're not an operations type person, you are just an acquisition person, then absolutely. And again, that's perfect for avoiding Section 24 and claiming your capital allowances. And so again, I suppose I should add capital allowances in as another additional point, but capital allowances are going to become an even bigger and better thing for 2021 as more and more people become aware of them, because absolutely when it comes to SA management and outsourcing the management of your SAs, then you can also claim capital allowances as well as avoiding Section 24 as well. With rent to SA, there has to be a profit share type scenario for the owners of the properties to also claim capital allowances. Okay, so that's how you can do SA by doing minimal work. Sharon, how do I know? Because we now have no operational running of our SAs, the guest communications, all of that stuff is fully outsourced. So Caroline used to manage the team, and now we've got management people in to manage the team. Okay, so that is ultimately how you do it, Sharon. Let me have a look, scroll down to see if there's any other questions before we finish. Oh, some more questions are coming in. So, Angelo, you're welcome. So, Hale, hi, Kevin. In the terms of Section 24 and mortgage interest relief, am I right? The mortgage product the landlord holds needs to allow for SA if it's to be run as one. Okay, so it's totally separate. Section 24 and capital allowances is totally irrelevant what the situation is in order to claim capital allowances. But as far as mortgage terms and conditions are concerned, then yes, you need to have permission from the lender in order to do SA. So if you can't get permission from the lender in order for SA to take place on the property, you can swap to a lender that does allow SA. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. They're not connected, mortgage terms and conditions, with Section 24 and capital allowances. Okay. Now then, I'm going to wrap up this now. I've got some other sort of questions that come in, but I'm going to wrap up this now because, again, don't want to keep everyone too long. I don't want the podcast episode being too long. So I'll have a jump in and see if there's any other questions in the comments. But hopefully you found that useful, everybody. Here's to your serviced accommodation success. And remember, your future needs you. Take care, everyone.